In a recent interview, the Duffer brothers had the audacity to compare Will's love for Mike to the unrequited crushes they had growing up, when Will has been deeply in love with Mike for years, for good reason given Mike's canon love for him. If Will were a girl, the Duffers would not have dismissed her love for Mike as a mere crush. Instead, they psychologized Will's genuine real love for Mike that did seem reciprocated as a gay self-delusion that he should be ashamed of and move on from, and not even try to investigate to see whether it was requited. I watched the finale to Stranger Things last night, and I want to make this video to address the Byler community. Byler was 100% prepared. The Duffer brothers and Sean Levy prepared it and chickened out. This is a follow-up to the video I made a day before the finale where I made a set of points that I'll expand on today. First, to introduce myself, I am Ronald Off the Record. I am a lawyer with the civil rights organization BAM, By Any Means Necessary. I make videos about entertainment I enjoy. I seek to bring analysis and heart to the conversation. I'm also known as the Byler Lawyer, a lawyer who has made videos presenting exhibits that Mike and Will were going to become canon in Stranger Things. First, I want to include the definition of queerbaiting, which I did not include in my last one. Queerbaiting is a marketing technique for fiction and entertainment in which creators hint at, but do not depict, same-sex romance or other LGBTQ+ representation. The purpose of this method is to attract, bait, a queer or straight ally audience with a suggestion or possibility of relationships or characters that appeal to them, while not alienating homophobic members of the audience or censors by actually portraying queer relationships. None of us are wrong. The Duffer brothers, Sean Levy, and Netflix are wrong. This was the most elaborate queerbait in media history. Here's a list of the exhibits that I presented in my videos, showing that the show had prepared a Mike and Will romance. It's the Duffer brothers, Sean Levy, and Netflix who embarrassed themselves and should be ashamed. They fully prepared a queer romance, more systematically, I believe, than any other show, to increase queer viewership, and did not clarify it wasn't going to happen until the very end. Listed on the screen are the problems of not having Byler that I listed in my last video. Byler was 100% prepared, and it's apparent that, and this likely might never be confirmed in a public statement, and it might even be contradicted by the Duffer brothers, they were preparing for Byler Endgame at the time Season 4 ended. There's just too much evidence in the show for it to have been otherwise. The Duffer brothers literally told Mike's actor, Finn Wolfhard, that Will's lie about the painting would, quote, pay off in the end.
How is he this clueless right now? Like with the Will scene, like in the car, I was like, what? How? I remember asking the Duffers, like, why would he not know this? And they were like, don't worry, it'll pay off in the end. And so I trust them.
And then at some point they chickened out. It's not clear when the turning point happened. Volume 1 of this season seemed to build up Byler, and Volume 2 seemed to tear it down. I'm guessing that some internal power struggle occurred, perhaps with Netflix or perhaps with Paramount, the Duffer brothers' future employer. And what resulted was the subtext of Byler that we ended up getting in the end. So that's my running theory. We also have the statements of Noah Schnapp, who is gay himself, who plays Will, who seemed genuinely enthusiastic about this season, at least as of a year ago, and was being compared to Tom Holland because of his tendency to accidentally spoil things, and he was comically always seeming to try to not utter a spoiler that Byler is going to happen.
You guys can't get me in trouble. I don't want to say it. Spoiler. Okay.
I wanted to ask you what your favorite moments were Finn on set.
Well, I would probably say from this new season.
Yeah.
So I guess I can't tell you. But from other seasons, what I've realized actually is that me and Finn, I think I spent the most time with Finn throughout the course of sorry, I gotta not make a picture of the same thing for season 5, but in other seasons, what was the question?
What was the...
There definitely was a change in his behavior in interviews, him being much more muted in interviews over the past month compared to what I had seen a year ago. In the intervening time, perhaps Trump getting elected, perhaps some conversations between the Trump administration and some tops of some corporations. Who knows exactly what it is, but something has happened. So instead of Mike's shitty behavior in seasons 3 and 4 being explained by internalized homophobia, countless Mikes in my comment sections said that they recognized in him their own struggle portrayed to a T and found his story so inspiring. They instead decided to make Mike an inconsistent, poorly written asshole who was a terrible friend and terrible boyfriend for no reason. And they decided to feature Maleven, Mike and Elle, an awful model for a supposedly healthy relationship taped together by Will's love, as the show's main romance. They undermined the message that they had sent with the Jonathan-Nancy breakup of prioritizing authenticity instead of artificially keeping up a romance based only on shared trauma. They have sided with conformity and betrayed what they claimed to be for, uplifting the marginalized and the outcasts. No, Duffer Brothers, gay inclusion does not mean you didn't queerbait. And you don't earn gay brownie points for gay representation either. I've seen comments from queer people saying they felt distress and panic watching your coming out scene, which was a disempowering scene compared to the empowering scene Will had at the end of Sorcerer. When we come out in real life, we are asserting who we are and demanding that that person accept that. We're not making a case for why we should be treated equally. We might be emotional and we might cry like I did with my mom, but we're demanding it. Will wasn't ready to come out yet, not to that group of people. And did you seriously use the word acceptance to describe what you think queer people deserve? This is such a step back from the Sorcerer episode, when we thought that you thought being gay gave him power, that being able to be fully himself, not so goddamn scared, would give him the power to handle people who may or may not accept him. We don't want acceptance or to be tolerated. We want freedom and respect. There's nothing to accept about us because there's nothing wrong with us. In fact, the opposite. We're proud of who we are because by being ourselves, we fight for everyone's freedom to love who they want, express themselves, and be who they want to be, and not be suffocated by conformity, the nuclear family, and gender roles. So fuck off with your patronizing liberal bullshit. And I want to be clear, all my words are directed at the writers and the creators, not on any actor. And the Duffer Brothers need to stop using Noah as a gay cover by claiming that he approved any of this. For various reasons, including being young and being your employee, it's unfair on him to expect him to be able to act as your token gay consultant, and you're responsible for your own script. Noah Schnapp has to be careful about what he says as a working actor, but he said something a month ago that suggests that he wasn't completely happy with how his character's been written. When asked about taking on more LGBT roles, he said, "If the right project comes that I feel really resonates, then I will. I don't want to just do anything, because it's so personal to me. I've been a little more picky with those kinds of projects. I wanted it to really resonate and mean something, and not just be another one for whatever diversity points, but I'm absolutely open to that." Now, he doesn't quote Stranger Things here, but given what Stranger Things presents, he might very well be talking about this show. In a recent interview, the Duffer Brothers had the audacity to compare Will's love for Mike to the unrequited crushes they had growing up. When Will has been deeply in love with Mike for years, for good reason, given Mike's canon love for him. And Will said in the van that he needs Mike and he always will. It's confirmed that the Duffers originally did not plan to have Mike and Will's conversation climbing up the radio tower, and that Noah had to ask for it. They literally were going to let Will's public coming out be the last word on this between Mike and Will.
Episode 8 that wasn't written, that I was like, we didn't close this story well enough. And I told the Duffers, like, very terrified, because I was like, oh my God, I can't, I'm stepping out of my place, but I just like had to say something. And they did write in like a little scene to close a storyline. And then I started bringing it up again, and they're like, okay, no, shut up. Like it was one time.
If Will were a girl, the Duffers would not have dismissed her love for Mike as a mere crush. Instead, they psychologized Will's genuine real love for Mike that did seem reciprocated as a gay self-delusion that he should be ashamed of and move on from, and not even try to investigate to see whether it was requited. The Duffers required realism for the long-suffering gay boy who had said that he's never going to find love. If this show is about realism, then why do the Duffers have a hetero male self-insert fantasy in Mike? A nerdy boy who finds a superpowered girlfriend who he can satisfy by simply saying, "I love you," despite treating her like shit? Elle's line that Mike has always understood her and seen her, when he completely did not understand her, gaslit her, and made her feel like a monster in season 4, was a travesty. He didn't even say I love you when Elle said it right before she died. Why does Max get to have a boyfriend whose love saves her from Vecna? Why is there no sign that Robin is dating Vicky, or any girl for that matter, in the epilogue? They even made Robin present as more femme as well. And in this scene, we hear about all of the other characters' lives, how they're doing, but not Robin's. God forbid we hear it's a gay life. Why did Robin and Vicky not have their promised date at Enzo's? And it's not like Robin and Vicky's relationship threatens a canon straight relationship of the show the way that Byler does Maleven. Having Robin still be in a relationship with Vicky would have been low risk for them, and they didn't do that even. Will never even got to fucking kiss his epilogue date. God forbid we're gonna have two guys kissing in the show, which historically has been less acceptable to the straight majority than lesbians kissing. And it looked like a casual date, not that Will had found love, even though that had been central to his character. So Duffers, why do only straight people find love in your show? And with Will's painting and veiled love confession in season 4, you literally made a gay boy's sacrifice and feelings be what repairs your main straight relationship. And why did you try to present us as safe and palatable to straight people? A respectful portrayal of a gay coming out would have had Will be rejected by Mike early enough so that he'd have time to find a romantic relationship in the show like every straight character did. Why did you have Will automatically assume that his love for Mike was unrequited in advance when you did show hints that Mike likes Will back? Why the hell did Mike not hug Will at the airport? You even had Will have a look of recognition when Robin talked about shared looks and bumps of the elbow. By confirming the audience's heteronormative assumption that Mike, despite his clear feelings for Will, is straight simply because he's dating a girl, you erase the existence of closeted gay people who date the opposite sex and of bi people. And why on the radio tower, after Will had made clear he had a crush on Mike, not have him have a hug after Mike declared they were best friends, when they had hugged before? Was it because Mike knows Will is gay and likes him, and so it would be too icky now? Will deserved an emotional hug from Mike like he got from his brother Jonathan. So we were even denied platonic intimacy between Mike and Will because he came out. They absolutely built up hope that Byler would happen with how they wrote Mike, Elle, and Will's relationships, including first and foremost their use of the Cyrano trope, where they had Mike fall in love with Will's painting and Will's feelings that he thought came from Elle. And the mountain of other clues, including how Mike clearly viewed Will differently. It's Hawkins, it's not the same without you. They placed Easter eggs even into the last season, Ted smashing Mike's closet door, the gay sexual references, the blue and yellow swings, that they knew Byler fans would find hope in. They had Will talk to Robin about what signs to look for to see if Mike was interested in him, with hope. And all this time, the creators never clarified that Byler was not going to happen in order to keep queer people watching. In my last video, I asked, with every choice you made, were you in fact laughing at the LGBT plus people you were giving hope to, who you were setting up for ridicule? And apparently they did. This was shameful, cruel, and indefensible. To our limited fortune, Byler lives on in subtext. All the evidence is that Mike has more than just friend feelings for Will, and that he's grieving the loss of his first love. And Elle's imagined happy ending did not include a romantic future with Mike. She didn't even send him a mental message. And after seeing comments about this, I rewatched the scene where Mike places his D&D book on the shelf. He stares at Will's D&D book for a long time while it takes up half the frame. And he breaks down when placing his own D&D book next to it, and he caresses it next to Will's.
And the storyteller, what about him?
The storyteller keeps telling stories, but there is a story that he can never tell. The story of the mage. Or at least not the real story.
I believe.
It was a nod to Byler, and it was a reference to this sad ending from It Part 2 involving the gay ship of Reddy between Richie and Eddie. Within the show itself, there is no explicit ruling out that Mike loves Will back romantically. That rules out the possibility that he remains closeted. And when we see Mike typing out his story, Will's painting is on his wall, and the show does not establish whether Mike knows who it actually is from. It's hard to see the painting lie not unraveling if Mike had actually brought it up to Elle. It's possible that he secretly kept it to himself, knowing the truth. Read this way, we end with a tragic story of an overall emotionally repressed boy who is still in the closet. It was cowardly by the writers, but Byler lives on. Byler is real. It is supported by massive amounts of subtext. They just didn't make it canon. But they created a relationship in subtext that makes more sense and is more heroic and beautiful than any other romantic relationship in the show. That has inspired queer and straight people who have left beautiful comments in my comment sections. The hope and fire that Byler lit in us will not burn out. There will be many more amazing fanfics out there about this beautiful relationship that was not made canon. The show creators absolutely knew we exist and who we are when they played David Bowie's Heroes during the closing credits, a song the show associates with Byler, its original version sung by a bisexual man, about a forbidden love that society looks down on that this show did not have the courage to actually portray. They gave lip service to heroism, but weren't heroic themselves. Money walks and talks, and the Duffer brothers and Sean Levy sold out. But no network corporate exec or creator has the right or the ability to dictate to us what we do. We don't need Daddy Netflix for permission. We will continue to live the lives we were destined to live, fictional shows be damned. If our community could survive the dark ages of the AIDS crisis in the 1980s, we can survive this. And honestly, we all have to admit, in the grand scheme of things, that was worse than this. And we are fortunate to have shows and media with better queer representation that our forebears did not. And besides, if Byler had been canon, it would have been a fictional story at the end of the day. What would have mattered is what we would have done with it after. Byler lives. Byler lives in what we do. We formed a great community on Tumblr and elsewhere, and we should stick together after this. We don't need Netflix, the Duffer Brothers, or Sean Levy to have our own Byler stories. In a capitalist society, we cannot rely on the capitalists to make our stories for us. Until we somehow get control of the means of production, our own stories will do. And honestly, from my experience making predictions and theories about Byler, I think our stories would be better. We'll create fix-it fanfics and art. Queer communities have always had thriving non-canon shipping fandoms. There's so much great stuff out there that combines great talent with the passion of who we are and what we're fighting for. We have always been rebellious and creative precisely because who we are and what we do does not have permission. Because we're freed from the shackles of conventionality and are able to truly express ourselves in a way that straight people often have trouble doing to the same degree because society assigns them roles to fill. And we'll continue to fight for the millions of Mikes and Wills out there to be themselves, find each other, and find love. And as far as I'm concerned, Will's moment at the end of Sorcerer is the canon conclusion to his coming out arc. Not pleading for acceptance, but asserting his right to love. That is the fierceness of our community that has won huge progress in a society where we were once illegal and criminalized. We didn't need a Stranger Things when we rioted at Stonewall. We don't need a show to raise our fists and live our lives the way we want to and will. So that's the main of my statement, and I have a treat at the end for you, but first I'd like to ask you to please like and subscribe. I will continue to make content, and I've already reacted to the first episode of Heated Rivalry, which is, let's say, less squeamish about showing gay people. And that won't be the last show I'm reacting to, of course. I had a poll for queer-themed shows to watch next, then this is the poll. This is where it currently stands. And I listed Arcane, Hannibal, Interview with the Vampire, The Untamed, and Young Royals. And also, Boots probably should have been on that list, but I didn't include it. And if you're wondering why I have the perspectives I do, check out my organization. I'm a lawyer with the civil rights group BAM, which is the Coalition to Defend Affirmative Action, Integration, and Immigrant Rights, and Fight for Equality by Any Means Necessary. A group that includes many queer people fighting to defeat Trump and fascism, and fighting racism, sexism, and anti-gay bigotry, and for equality. Also check out my autobiographical video where I talk about why I'm in BAM and more about us, and there'll be a link to it at the very end. You can also support my Patreon, link in the description, where you can communicate with me and also get early access to my videos and exclusive content. I'm going to end now by replaying part of a video I released a month ago where I read out beautiful comments from my comments section talking about why Byler was and is so important. It will be bittersweet, yes, seeing them now, knowing what eventually happens. But it should also make us feel righteous anger toward Netflix, the Duffer Brothers, and Sean Levy for betraying the promise the story had, and remind us that we can and will continue to fight together. Positive posts. I don't want this entire video to be shoveling through shit. There's a huge amount of great positive comments out there. They are the prevailing opinion in comment sections of my videos, and I know there's going to be tremendous positive response to Byler if it happens. As I said at the start, one of the best Byler proofs is the sheer difference in the quality of statements made for the two ships. I've seen many profound, deep, intelligent, and compassionate comments from Bylers about how appreciating the ship has positively affected their lives, and I want to share some of them with you. Here's one comment. I'm not queer, but I'll be so mad if they don't make Byler canon. It just makes so much sense and would make this show the ultimate anthem for outcasts. It would make each of the core 5 a representation of a marginalized group. I love this show, and I think holding up Byler would seal the legendary beauty of it. Another comment. I'm a straight 11-year-old girl, and Byler has genuinely changed my life. I've learned so much about what queer people have gone through and have popped that heteronormative bubble. I'm so glad that I got to discover them, and along with that, I've also learned so much about film and media and debate. This society and generation has so much casual homophobia, and I'm happy that I've grown out of that and become a proud ally. This whole community has taught me not to live up to society's expectations and just be myself. Gay is great. Stay amazing. And the blue and yellow hearts, which are the official colors of the Byler fandom. Another comment. I came here with my doubts about Byler, but after watching this video till the very end, I felt a sense of relief. Not because it convinced me that Byler would be endgame, but because it makes me comfortable since I'm still a closeted gay boy in a small and war-devastated country called Myanmar. I'm not even sure if I'll be alive when Stranger Things Season 5 comes out. My one wish is to enjoy Stranger Things Season 5 and come out to my family and friends, hoping they won't be homophobic, but I still really hope Byler becomes endgame. Okay, I hope I can avoid crying during these comments, but we're going to get to some longer ones. This one says, I'm a lesbian, and that's something I've struggled a lot for years with trying to accept. I'll admit that I'm still not quite there. I recently went so far as to date a boy to try and prove to myself and the people around me that I was at least bisexual. I broke up with him once I realized I was falling in love with a close friend of mine who I've known since I was a little girl. Part of the reason I was able to begin the journey of accepting myself was because I realized my reluctance to accept I wasn't into men was directly causing harm to the boyfriend I did have, much like Mike to Elle in the series, and because my sexuality meant I could see the sun, moon, and stars in this friend of mine. She makes me feel powerful, confident, and better for being different. For the first time in my life, I found beauty in the love I could have for others. I found comfort where I had originally found fear, pride where I'd always found shame. She sits across from me as I type this. Maybe this is my version of Will's monologue, a veiled confession for the things I'm so hesitant to say to her face. My point is, these kinds of stories are very real. It is not delusional to anticipate a Mike-Will romance, nor is it evil to desire a Mike-Will romance. Many people, myself included, have found the deepest parts of themselves in this story. Seeing yourself on screen and realizing that you're not alone, going online to see that there are so many people who see you, that they have names and explanations for everything that seems to be vexing you. You're taught about internalized homophobia and compulsive heteronormativity. Everything you've never been able to understand starts to fit together to show you who you are. But there is a common view that that is enough, that we don't need or deserve more. That once season 5 comes out, if a Mike-Will romance is not implemented into the story, we will be humiliated for thinking, even for a moment, that we could have the happy ending. Stranger Things is in every living room. The message carried by a Byler endgame would reach every corner of the globe. The positive impact it would have is immeasurable. If the Duffer brothers were smart, and they are, they'd go through with it. I want to live in a world where I'm not scared to tell the girl I love how much she means to me. A world where I'm not forced to bury who I am throughout my childhood and adolescent years, turning 18 not knowing quite where I fit. A world where myself and those alike don't suffer for the comfort of the heterosexual majority, to whom our stories are so easy to ignore. Neglecting to take the possibility of a Mike-Will romance seriously is a reflection of the reason why a Mike-Will romance is necessary in the first place. If you don't like it, you can turn off your screen. We cannot turn it off or make it stop. Believe me, we've all tried. Thank you for this video. I wish you the best and can't wait to see what other videos you make. Okay, just want to thank you for your comment. Lisbeth loves to love. A few more. I'm a gay man who, like many other gay men, fell in love with a straight best friend when I was a young teen. Anyone who has gone through this particular experience knows that it involves emotions and complications that aren't really in any other sort of relationship. In season 2 of Stranger Things, it became obvious to me that Will was in love with Mike. The signs were everywhere, and due to some fantastic acting and I assume directing, I just got the vibe. I didn't amass evidence, I didn't think back to particular moments, I just knew from the way Will talked about, thought about, and looked at Mike that he was going through the same thing I had. I've really only ever felt this way about fictional characters with Kahlua, I hope I'm saying it right, Kahlua and Gon from Hunter x Hunter, where it is incredibly obvious to anyone who has ever fallen for a straight friend that Kahlua loves Gon. I didn't notice that there was so much evidence for Mike's homosexuality. It never crossed my mind that the childhood BFF straight crush could actually reciprocate, LOL. I didn't notice any of the admittedly obvious signs because I was not looking for them or even aware of their possibility. No straight man I've ever met has been open to the possibility that one party of a pair of guy friends might have feelings for the other. They see moments of particular flavors of intimacy, pain, jealousy, fear, and adoration, and interpret them according to their experiences and the expectations founded therein, just as I do. They conclude that they are just really close friends. But it is not as if their conclusion is as valid as any other. Rather, they are blind to the emotions and relations depicted. They mistake their blindness for the non-existence of what they cannot see, as if the blind man doubted the existence of the sky. Hitherto, I was blind to the possibility that Mike was also gay. Thanks for your video. It definitely showed me what I had missed. Okay, thank you for this comment. Be sure, 7412. This next is a DM to me on Tumblr. Someone writes, I'm messaging to let you know that your content has had a real impact on my life. Although you might not see the connection at first, trust the process. Your 2-hour-plus Byler video was the push I needed to finally confess to the love of my life after dancing around each other for years. I have been in love with this girl since I met her in fandom forms at 14. Although the world is generally more accepting now than it was in the 1980s, her parents, not so much. Her parents basically forbade her from speaking to me because they found out about my sexuality. We haven't been able to FaceTime for over 4 years unless she hid away in her closet, ha. I wanted to just be us so badly, but we've always had to hide. Like Byler, I knew it was there. Even as a stupid 14-year-old kid, I knew it was going to get her. I saw Byler on my first watch of the show with her too. I hoped so badly that it could be true in season 5, but I never really let myself believe it until your video. The evidence was undeniable. I had to accept it then, even with the internalized homophobia and heteronormativity. Like you said, not having season 5 means we can't be certain, but it gave me so much hope. It made me realize that I don't need to automatically assume that gay people are destined to be unhappy in every story. I broke down with you at the story you read of what it was like being gay in the 80s. I saw myself in it. If anything were to happen to me, I'd want to die with her knowing just how much I love her. I almost did at one point. Your video, this part of the 3-hour beauty, made me realize that I couldn't let that be us. We aren't in the 80s anymore. Even though the prospects look bleak, I still needed to give her that decision to choose us. I told her about a week later. It went better than I could have ever imagined. Although we aren't officially engaged, we set a wedding date for right after I'm scheduled to pass the bar exam, the 10-year anniversary of us meeting. She's finally moving out on a scholarship this August, so we'll finally be able to be us without the shadow of her parents. On December 31st, I'll be making the flight to finally see her for the first time. That's when the finale comes out. We're both waiting until then to watch all of season 5 together and hopefully watch the love between Mike and Will finally become realized. I'm sorry that this became so long, but I'm so incredibly thankful for you. I needed you to know just how much of an impact content like yours makes, even though it may be hard to see sometimes. Thank you again for everything you did for me, despite no knowledge of our existence. And I want to thank you for your comment and your message. Yeah, as you can see, I'm still making videos, and it's because of comments like this that keeps me motivated. And here's the last comment. It's not my fault you don't like boobies on Tumblr. Ronald, you made my dad cry. Nah, yo, I didn't expect my dad to cry watching the Byler Lawyer vid. Shit's crazy. We're just vibing watching the vid, right? Halfway through, I glance over at my dad and he has tears in his eyes. At first I was like, okay, he relates to Mike, I already knew that. But nope. Next thing I know, he's crying. Not ugly sobbing or anything, but definitely crying. Now, my dad had already told me he related to Mike, but I didn't realize it was this deep. And then when the video ended, he turned to me, eyes all watery, and said, I've wasted more than 50 years of my life. And I swear my heart shattered into like 87,000 little Lego pieces. That line hit harder than Mike's love monologue. Lore drop for the uninitiated. My dad is gay, slay. But he was in a lavender marriage. That's when you marry a gay woman, if you're a gay man. Because, well, points itself. Hello, evidence. He got married at 29, divorced 4 years ago, and only came out then too. So when he says wasted, he means he spent most of his life pretending to be normal. He even lost his own will along the way. The only thing he says he doesn't regret is having me and my sister. And yeah, that's when I cried my eyes out later, because oh my god. But also, plot twist, he's officially a Byler now. We literally share a hyperfixation. My dad is out here gay and thriving, but also ready to fight Netflix executives if Byler doesn't end up canon. Anyways, this right here is why Byler needs to be endgame. Stories matter. Representation matters. My dad saw himself in a teenage boy fighting to be honest about who he loves, and it broke something open in him. If Stranger Things has the chance to give people like him, like Mike, like Will, a happy ending, and they don't, that's not just disappointing, that's cruel. Because for my dad, it's too late to rewrite the first 50 years of his story. But for Mike and Will, for every queer kid watching them, it's not too late. They can have what he didn't, they can win. So yeah, this isn't just about shipping, this is about giving people hope. And if Byler is an endgame, then honestly, the Duffers have wasted our time. So to reiterate, to the Duffer brothers, Sean Levy, and Netflix, you are responsible for the most elaborate and cruelest queerbait in media history. You strung people along, gave people false hope to increase queer viewership for your show, doing a disservice to the marginalized and outcast the Duffer brothers and Sean Levy claim to support. You opened us up to unfair attack so that homophobes can say we were delusional, and to tell LGBT people who had hope in this ship that when they hope for the possibility of queer love in their lives, they should doubt themselves because of what you did. Of course, we were always right, and you're not going to stop us from calling you out and demanding equality and respect. So to my viewers, take care of yourselves, everyone, as we continue to live our lives and continue to expect and demand equality. We are right to be angry, but we also don't need the permission of Netflix or these creators to act on our right to love. Everyone, Byler lives, and we'll stay crazy together, and we can be our own heroes. Thank you for watching.